What up, people? How you doing? This is your coach Reyes. Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I will be your guide today, where we will talk about Jesus' sacrifice was wasted. Like the so-called sacrifice of Jesus was just a waste. What benefit has it provided to anyone at any time? What is the truth about this whole situation? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Uh, So I'm just getting things squared away on the other platforms. Of course, we are on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Give about 5 minutes to let people get on, and then we get started. So if you find me for the first time, this channel is a channel dedicated to deconstructing Christianity for people who have made a decision to deconstruct from Christianity. So I look forward to having some conversations today. Hopefully we'll be able to have some good conversations, get some people commenting on the subject matter of the day. Once we hit the 5 minute mark, I am gonna start by doing some serious corrections on something that these uh, people are struggling with on one of my videos that I posted yesterday. So in the meantime, let's do our housekeeping. If you're on Facebook and TikTok, then in the description of this video, on Facebook and TikTok, you will see where we are going to have a deep dive webinar on July 27th. The Eventbrite link is on Facebook and YouTube in the description of this video. Look forward to seeing you guys there. We're having a meet and greet. We all meeting up here in San Antonio, October uh, October October 31st through November 2nd. We're meeting up here in San Antonio. Hopefully you guys can make that. Go look in the description of this video. You'll see the link for that as well. I know some people like Dwayne, who's on YouTube right now, has already signed up. A couple other people already signed up. Look forward to it. But we're going to be having those meet and greets, and we're going to have this webinar. End of July 27th. The Exodus, the greatest lie ever told, is what we're going to cover on July 27th. It's going to be about 3 hours of the seminar. 3 hour webinar, 3 hours of the greatest lie ever told, the story of the Exodus. Without that story, all this Bible stuff falls flat on its face. So I look forward to that conversation on the 27th of July. That's a Sunday. We're going to start at 12 noon. It's only $10 to be a part of that webinar. Nobody who's taken any of the webinars have ever said that it was less than the value. It was always greater than the value. But today we're having a conversation about this so-called sacrifice of Jesus. Now I say so-called sacrifice of Jesus because we actually have zero proof that any sacrifice ever happened. So I don't want to verify it by saying that the sacrifice of Jesus as if it actually happened, because there's zero proof of this sacrifice ever happening. But also, when we talk about this, we want to discuss the fact of the matter that what benefit has it shown? What has it proven? What has it demonstrated? For the last 2,000 years, what's different that's of benefit of this Jesus sacrifice? Because quite frankly, the idea of Jesus have been more of a detriment to society than it's been a benefit to society. And TikTok people, I'm only covering myself up because, as those who follow my channel know, cigars are my friend, and TikTok be tripping. So we're going to get started here. And I hope that we can have some conversation with some people who can tell us what's the great benefit of Jesus' sacrifice and other sacrifice, and talk about his sacrifice. I mean, truly, had to get the stogie lit. There is no benefit to believing in this Jesus. But before I get too far into that, there is a subject matter. So I did a video yesterday. In that video yesterday, I talked about, we briefly talked about it here. We talked about Judges 11. Talked about the human sacrifice that was made in Judges 11. And for some strange reason, in the comments of that video, I had so many people, I had all these Christians trying to tell me that the girl was not sacrificed in Judges 11. Even though I read it, even had one person trying to tell me that God had promised this man the victory before he even went into battle. Where before he made the promise, well, God had promised him victory, had given him victory before he even went into battle, before he made the promise, before he made his vow. But at no time frame did this story say what the people are deflecting is saying, right? So I just want to, go over this for just a second here. Just a second. Just a little time. I want to go over it. Because obviously, they have, the Christian, the Bible believer have struggles in accepting their own story. They have serious problems accepting their own story. So when we look at it, y'all see that, right? Y'all see that, right? Let me see. Y'all got that on your screen, right? Let me make it bigger for you. Let me see if I can make it bigger for you. I want to make sure y'all can see this. So the whining that these Christians have been making concerning this, and if you don't, is that they're saying the girl, that she didn't die, and that he had been made he had already been made a promise by this guy that he would win the battle before he made the promise. So there was no need to make the promise. He was just, Judges is just letting you know men are gonna do what men are gonna do, as one of the comments said. But when you look at it, and I know I said the name wrong left and right, but Japhethan, starting at verse 29, Japhethan, he said, then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Japhethan, and he passed through Galilee and Manasseh. He passed on to Mizpah, to Gilead, and from Mizpah to Gilead he passed on to the Ammonites. And Japheth made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will give the Ammonites into my hand, then whatever comes out the doors of my house to meet me, when I return victorious from the Ammonites, shall be the Lord's, to be offered up by me as a burnt offering. I mean, that's pretty clear of what he's going to do. Now, when the people are saying that, hey, he had already gained victory before he made his promise, because he had moved, he passed through Gilead and through Manasseh and on to Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah to Gilead, and then passed on to the Ammonites. These are not battles. This is just his travels. This is his connection flights. These aren't the only people he's actually fighting are the Ammonites. So this is not him going in and fighting the people in Gilead or fighting the people in any other place. This is just him passing through. And then after he passes through and he gets ready to fight the Ammonites, he makes this pledge. Now, this pledge was made while he had the Spirit of the Lord on him, according to this story. So he made the pledge. I'm going to offer up that he would that whatever comes out the door of my house to meet me when I return from the victorious when I return victorious from the Ammonites shall be the Lord's to be offered up by me as a burnt offering. Now, if he just said shall be the Lord's, then that whole bullshit that they say, oh, she went and she lived as in a monastery, she worked in the church, or she was in the temple, she became a vestal virgin. When the Christian tried to offer that bullshit, it would work if it said shall be, just shall be the Lord's. But he said to be offered up by me as a burnt offering. That means I gotta kill it. I gotta take some of the parts and throw them away. I gotta drain it of his blood. Then I gotta put it on the altar and let it burn. Let it burn is what you gotta do. And then when you get on down into verse 39, because his daughter was the first person to come out the door, and his daughter was like, look, give me 2 months to go chill out with the girls in my virginness. But in 39 it said, at the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, who did with her according to the vow he made. She had never slept with a man. The rest of it don't have nothing to do with it. But he did with her according to the vow that he made. What was the vow? That whatever comes out of his door, the door of his house to meet me when I return victorious from the Ammonites, shall be the Lord's to be offered up as a burnt offering. You have to just put on a big ass level of cognitive dissonance if your mind says, oh, and here we go. Rupert saying God doesn't accept human sacrifice, is not accepted, is forbidden in the culture. That has nothing to do with the fact that it was done and it was accepted, right? You're saying that, but you're saying that human sacrifice wasn't accepted. At what time frame is this storyline supposed to be happening? This storyline is supposed to be happening. This is Judges, somewhere in the 1100s BCE. 1100s BCE is when this time frame is happening. In the Hebrew religion during the 1100s BCE, human sacrifice was most certainly acceptable. They had previously done the sacrifice of baby boys, the Molech sacrifice, for all the Levitical priests, until they changed it later. But to say that, oh, human sacrifice, that's not true because God doesn't accept human sacrifice. That's like, because slavery is illegal in America now, you're going to say that there was no slavery in America. Because germ warfare is illegal now, that America never participated in germ warfare. It doesn't work that way. And here's the thing, you can say that it doesn't fit, that because of that the Hebrews, God doesn't accept human sacrifice. You can say that, but it's in your book, clear, cut, and dry, in your book, very well stated. If you're on TikTok and you want to come up, I need you to make a comment first about what you want to talk about. If you want to come up on YouTube or Facebook, let me know. Now, I know while I was doing the screen share, I missed a lot of y'all comments. So let me go back. I forgot to take my little vitamin chew, but it tastes great with coffee. Rupert, I see that you. What's your response to that? The fact that yes, later on, you're saying your God doesn't accept human sacrifice, forbidden in Hebrew culture. Then why is the Jesus sacrifice accepted? Is that not a human sacrifice? You see how that don't work. You can't say your God doesn't. This God doesn't accept human sacrifice, but a human sacrifice was given in order for you to have your so-called salvation. How do you have your so-called salvation? You ain't got human sacrifice. Where does the Gladiites, where does it say that they practice human sacrifice? At what part of the Bible says that I mean, and I'm asking because I don't know. I've read this before, but I don't know where it says that they practice human sacrifice. Where does it say that the Gladiites, how do you say them, practice human sacrifice? Because that sounds like something that you're making up, to be honest. Sound like something that's just being made up. And you're absolutely right, Jerome. The best way to refute the Bible is to use the Bible to counter it. What does that have to do with the Gladiites having practicing human sacrifice? And unless you're talking about some that's responding to somebody else's questions. Said there's no prohibition against human teleportation. Why? Because it doesn't happen. But the Jesus character was a human sacrifice, but you're saying that the Jewish people are against that, the Jewish God, that the God of the Bible is against human sacrifice, doesn't accept human sacrifice. But Jesus here was a human sacrifice. Judges 11, the young virgin girl was a human sacrifice. Now you're claiming that the Gladiites were separated from the God of the Bible because they practiced human sacrifice. But where does it say that they were separated from those people, from this God? You see, one of the things I always find interesting is how Christians, Bible believers, will just make up doctrine on the fly. Because I'm asking, where does it say that they participated in human sacrifice? And if they were participating in human sacrifice, you would think this God would have not accepted the human sacrifice that was being offered by Japheth. But he certainly accepted it. He didn't send, for Abraham, he had a ram in the bush. No pastor used to always say that. He had a ram in the bush. But for Japheth, there's no ram in the bush. The reason why? Because Judges is always on that one-upsmanship. You ever meet those kind of people that if you're telling a story, they always got to tell their story, but their story got to be bigger than your story or more interested in your story? That's Judges. Judges is Genesis redone with more one-upmanship. No, see, this is when you know a person doesn't have any information to back up what they're saying. It started in Manasseh. When you give vague answers, all you're really saying is, I really don't know. I just want to throw some shit against the wall and see if it sticks. When in the Bible does it say the Gladiites or the people in Manasseh were practicing human sacrifice? You can't just type up some stuff and make it up. You got to give me some real. You got to make a statement. Like I just went through Judges chapter 11, and demonstrated that this God was accepting of the human sacrifice of this young virgin girl. And if this God is omnipresent, as the Bible claims that he is, he knew what was going to come running out that door in the first place. So he wanted some of that young virgin pum pum to be burnt up so that he can come over and smell the good meats being cooking. He wanted the thigh meat to cook. So this guy loves his human sacrifice. And he loves his human sacrifice so much that he figured the only way I can save the world is to do another human sacrifice. But this time, I'm going to do a so-called virgin dude who is myself. Because according to most people, Jesus didn't have a wife. Jesus ain't never got no pum pum. So he must have been a virgin. So since he got that virgin girl sacrifice and it was tasty, right? In Judges, he had that tasty virgin sacrifice of the girl in Judges 11. I guess he decided he wants some virgin male sacrifice in his book of in the New Testament, in his little Gospels. Sean said that he was hungry, but not so much now. I know Rupert doesn't have much to say. I mean, he can't express it. He can't say, okay, this is chapter in this verse in Manasseh. They were doing human sacrifice. And mind you, it would have to be in Judges or in Joshua that it states that. And we did the whole thing where we went through all of Joshua and we went through Judges all the way up to 20. And no, at no point in time did when we was doing our What's Wrong with the Bible series, did it have anything did it say anything about the people in Manasseh doing human sacrifice? That's just something you made up in order to try to believe it. And I think people, this is a thing with people who believe in the Bible. They have to make shit up in order for them to maintain their belief in it, because they want to believe that their God is all good. You want to, but it's hard to believe in a God that's all good when he accepting human sacrifices, when his whole plot device is a human sacrifice. And what has Jesus done? What has this belief in Jesus done has benefited anybody? I would love for some Christian, some Bible believer rather, to come up on here and tell us what has been the great benefit of believing in Jesus that is real, that we can look upon today and say, hey, you know what? That right there, I need to go believe in Jesus, because look at what they're receiving. So we all know if you live in, there are certain benefits to being born into certain families or just being born in certain countries, right? If you're born in America, if you're born in England, you're born in Spain, Netherlands, Canada, Japan, China, you're born into a country where you got opportunities to grow. You're born into a country where you get some education. You're born into a country where you get a lot of benefits, right? And we can name the benefits. So since we can name those benefits, we know that they're tangible. Tangible benefits we can name, we can look at. Compared to if you were born in, say, Chad. If you was born in the favelas in Brazil, the favelas. Somebody reminded me of what that word was, so I got to use it three more times. So if you was born in the favelas in Brazil, you're born into a situation where you have certain disadvantages. So when you compare the two, to be born in America or be born in the favelas of Brazil, we can identify it. But to be Christian, To believe in Jesus, Jesus' sacrifice, what is the benefit? There, outside of some, oh, you get to go to heaven, you get saved, you know, Jesus transformed my life. And no, I can find the same testimonies from anybody in any other religion about life-changing events. You can find that with anybody. You can also, as far as, oh, we go to heaven, oh, the other religions got their own little heavens too, but you can't prove that. There's no proof in it. So I need some of you. Hell, okay. The said Jesus is not God. Hell, just believing in your God. What's the benefit? And however and whoever you describe as God, what's the benefit? What has any God done for anybody? I just, you know, if you want people to believe in your God, you need your God to have demonstrated something. I ain't seen your God demonstrate nothing. We have seen no demonstrations to the benefits of being Christian. Appreciate that, Tom. None whatsoever. So I'm just wondering, I want to know. Now, Rupert told us, Rupert had posted his claim of Manassas. Thank you for coming, being a member. That's one of my members right there. Was Jesus a historical figure? No. A lot of people are afraid to say that he wasn't a historical figure. There was no one person that the Jesus story is based off of. More than likely, it was based off of multiple people. But there's no one person that the Jesus story is based off of. So, mm-mm. Now Rupert said 2 Kings 21 is verification about the people in Manasseh. Um, and the human sacrifice, but Japheth was a Gladiite, and he was from Mizpah. But let's see what the hell got to say. What he got to say there? What he got to say? In 2 Kings, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign. That's a person. Was 12 years old when he began to reign. He was 50 years old in Jerusalem. His mother was Hespesiba. I can't say her name. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, following the abominable practices of the nations that the Lord had drove out before the people of Israel. For he rebuilt in high places that his father Hezekiah had destroyed. Okay, so I can stop right here. This is talking about Manasseh, a person, an individual. And this is obviously for he built high places that his father Hezekiah had destroyed. So this is Manasseh, the son of Hezekiah. He erected altars for Baal. So, Rupert, you just exposed yourself, my guy. I don't even have to read this any further. This is talking about King Manasseh. This is something that supposedly happened hundreds of years after. After. Rupert, Rupert, I'm gonna need you to stop. I'm gonna need you to stop, Rupert. You Rupert, it's one thing to state opinions, but your whole thing was the God of the Bible does not accept the Hebrew Bible does not accept the Hebrew God does not accept human sacrifices, and that these people, Japhethan, who was in Mitzvah, was participating in a human sacrifice, and God wouldn't have accepted that human sacrifice because the people that he was with was already doing it. You pointed out Second King as Manasseh doing it, but that's talking about a person who is an individual king after Hezekiah, which puts him roughly around 700 BCE, right? The story of in Judges had to have occurred, if it had ever occurred, would have occurred in and around 1100 to 1000 BCE. So there's at least 300 years of time dilation, time difference here. So no, sir. No, sir. Dude, why are you saying Second Kings? Don't say that. Unless I just went back by accident. But don't say Second Kings 21. I just read Second Kings 21. Second Kings 21 is talking about a king, an individual. And I put it on screen that is talking about an individual. I'm gonna put it on screen again for you. Let's put it on screen again for you. Matter of fact, let me make it a little bigger for you so you can see it. That's talking about Manasseh, right? That's talking about a person. That's a person. He's the son of Hezekiah. You was talking, trying to indicate a people, but that's talking about the person. Come on, guy. I'm gonna need you to do better than that. I'm gonna need you to do better than that. I'm gonna need you to do better. You just don't want to accept that your God loved, he liked him that human sacrifice of that young girl. He liked that human sacrifice. So just accept it. Your God likes human sacrifices. Y'all say, here you go, Rupert. Let me help you out. God's ways are bigger and different than man's ways. So who are we to question God? So if he accepted the human sacrifice of the young girl, he's the creator. He could do that if he wanted to. Boom. There you go. Now you got an excuse that allows you to still believe in your God. See, I don't know why y'all Bible believers get suckered into the idea that of trying to make your God's judgments and actions fit our world. Y'all got a built-in excuse. His ways are different than our ways, and the creator can do whatever he wants to the creation. And y'all should just run with that. Don't even argue no more. Just walk away. Because that's all you're really saying. Trying to justify it, you get caught up like you just did. You get thrown off. You make a statement, you put out some stuff, and it's not there. Why you keep saying Gilead is related to Manasseh? Manasseh is 300 years after the story in Judges. It's at least, at minimum, 300 years. This story in Judges is not happening at the same time. What's the time frame for Judges 11? And if I'm wrong, please let me know. I don't mind being wrong. And you say he related. the tribe of Manasseh. Okay, first thing. 2 Kings 21 is talking about King Manasseh. Manasseh. It's not talking about the tribe Manasseh. And just because somebody is related to somebody, don't mean nothing. I'm related to my cousin Chanel. She's Christian. I'm not. Just because we related, don't mean we believe the same thing or we do the same thing, right? You're grasping for straws, my guy. You're grasping for straws, Rupert. And you got to put it in, you got to understand the tribe of Manasseh is not being spoken of in 2 Kings 21. Put it up on the screen. You know, how hard is that to recognize when it's your own book? That's why I brought this whole thing about Judges up. That's why I brought the whole thing about Judges up. Is because y'all was going in and I didn't feel like typing all this stuff. So I was like, I'm not typing all this. I'll just talk about it tomorrow. And there's the excuse. If you want to, look, why y'all keep, okay, y'all be falling for them dumbass wordplays. And I remember when this dumbass wordplay started like in the 80s with I overstand. Because when you understand and you underneath, you below the standard, you're not getting it. This is dumb English wordplay, right? That overstand. And I fell for it when I was in high school. But anyway, you got to continue reading the scripture. No, dude, there is no continue to read it. You're just straight wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong and you can't admit it. That is the problem with, like, if you show me where I'm wrong, I'm going to admit it. But y'all can't admit when you're just flat out wrong. We've had a few who come on here and they can admit that they're wrong. But y'all cannot admit that when you're wrong. Like, isn't that pride? Isn't that one of your sins? Is pride? So when you've been shown to be wrong, that Manasseh in 2 Kings is the son of Hezekiah. It says so. You got to keep reading scripture. It says Manasseh, son of Hezekiah, did evil things, put up altars towards Baal. It's talking about the king, the son of Hezekiah. And you talking about, oh, Gilead is kin to the tribe of Manasseh. Not Manasseh. You talking about these tribes are related. You using a piece of scripture that talk about an individual person whose name happened to be the same as the tribal name, and you trying to make that connect with that fact that he did some evil stuff 300 years after the other story was happening in Judges. And they ain't got nothing to do with each other. Nothing to do with each other. You know what? The fact that he's so prideful that he can't even admit that, I'm just gonna move on. I'm just gonna move on. Just gonna move on. Because there's no point. Because that pride that he got, it's like they know it. They know it. But hey, words sound power. Dude, you can say I overstand, but you don't. That's the sad part about it. You're saying that you overstand something, but you don't. If these words do have true power, as you are saying, then you are truly understanding. Oh my gosh. And the lies they tell, you refuse to look. Sir, 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 sir. I went to 2 Kings. How you gonna sit up here and just lie, bold-faced lie at your face? I went to Second Kings, like you said. That's Second Kings 21. That's what you posted up there. Went to Second Kings, read the part about Second Kings. Exactly what you said. So now you lying. Now you just straight up a liar. So first you got pride in the fact that you can't admit when you're wrong. Now you just straight up lying. Because I put it on the screen and you can rewind this video, watch it 50, 11 times, and you're going to see the same thing that I put up on the screen, 2 Kings 21. And that 2 Kings 21 is talking about the son Manasseh. It ain't talking about a tribe, Manasseh. Ain't got nothing to do with Japhethan and Gilead. Ain't got nothing to do with them people. Matter of fact, they're 300 years apart from each other. So what the hell are you talking about? Come on, man. Be a man. Be a man. Can't even admit when they wrong. They ain't gonna come up here and try to straight up just tell a lie. You refuse to read. I showed you. Matter of fact, you scared to come on to the live and talk. Speak through your words. Speak through volume. You rather hide behind a keyboard. But that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, I feel like I'm on one today. I really would love for somebody to come on to the show and talk they talk. I would even put up a primer today. Call. See, they ain't trying to say and change stuff. He still can't admit it. Show us where God accepts human sacrifices. What was it in Exodus? Where he says that is it Exodus? The hard part is that. You know what? I ain't finna. You read 2 chapters. I'm done with him. I'm done with him. He has shown and he has bared his teeth, and they have seemed to be false. And his neck has been shown drenched with blood, and yet he still raves on about him thinking that he's alive, and he is certainly dead. You're dead in the knowledge, dead in understanding. You believe in a book, and you believe some things, and you have created your own narrative, and that's fine. That's fine, Rupert. You created your own narrative. I showed you where in Manasseh that you were wrong. You can't accept it. So you're not man enough for me to continue to talk to you, because you don't have enough respect for yourself that you're willing to say, you know what? Damn, maybe I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But it's okay. It's all right. I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. Because I see what kind of person you are. You're not an honorable person. You don't have any integrity. Yeah. And you know, I can't really deal with people who don't have integrity. You know, it's one thing to misunderstand something. But when you don't have integrity and you call me a liar basically by saying that I didn't read it when I brought it up there, you have no integrity. I hope one day that I think your Bible talks about being honest and that sort of thing. But then we are talking about the Bible. You know, it's filled with so many. There's so many immoralities within this book. You know, from the time frame in Exodus where it says that for each one of your children, your firstborn sons, they have to be dedicated to the Lord in the same way that the firstborn calves and the firstborn goats are dedicated to the Lord. Now, how are the firstborn goats and calves dedicated to the Lord back in Exodus? They're killed, they're gutted. The blood is drained, and they put on a burnt offering. And it just said, oh, you got to do that for the firstborn of your sons. Now, later on, your God changes it and says that, okay, well, the Levites are going to account for the firstborn sons, and then tell you what, If we run out of Levites, then just pay 50 pieces of silver. You know. But I know believers don't have the integrity to admit that, accept that. So, you know, we know how y'all roll. Exactly. It's confirmation bias, like a big dog. Exactly. Um, Black Alistair. And it's just confirmation bias. They have to do that. They can't help themselves. They have. It's all right. It's all right. You know, some people need that. Some people need to live their life that way. Some people need that confirmation bias in order for them to exist. That's why some people have to have this God. Like somebody on here on TikTok, I can't see the name. It looks like it says Uthor. The wages of sin is death. God is not all about peace. Right? What's a sin? Because depending upon who you are, where you are, you might have different levels and different thoughts about sins, even within the realms of the entities and all the other religions. What is a sin? And just like Brandon is saying right here, where do you get your morality from? From me. I could say that, but ultimately it does come from me. First, it started with my parents and my teachers and my football coaches, my baseball coaches. It started with all the people that I grew up around. Now, you can't say that they got it. Yeah, I know the next thought is, oh, they got that from Christianity, so on and so forth. No, they got that from their family members as well. They got that from their community. Because different people around the world have different moralities based on who you grow up around, what country you grow up around. Right? So I got my morality from my community that I grew up around. But then, more importantly, because I evaluated everything that people were saying, things that people were doing, my morality truly comes from me, right? And morality, and here's the thing, my morality came from me because, and I'm gonna get to the other part about it being subjective. My morality came from me because even in the things that I was being taught morally by family members, some I accepted, some I rejected. This is why you got some people, they start killing or they start stealing when they kids. And even though they might have parents who are teaching them the different way, so you choose your morality. Now, that makes morality subjective because people choose their morality. But morality, for the most part, is subjective, but there are certain things that are objective moralities, meaning that it doesn't matter what you think. Wrong is murder is wrong. It doesn't matter what you think. There's the difference between self-defense, somebody trying to murder you, you self-defense. You try not to murder them if you can, but sometimes the other person doesn't leave you any choice. Stealing from somebody is wrong. There is absolutely no time when stealing is okay. And I know the example. If a person is starving, they need to feed their family. No, no, stealing is wrong. There's no time frame when stealing is right. So, hell. And basically, at the end statement, I don't do to people anything I don't want done to myself. I treat people exactly how I want to be treated. But what I certainly don't need is a book to tell me to tell me about my morality. If I needed that, then I must be a psychopath. Yes, because we talked about how original sin is just a false. It's a false dichotomy that was created in order to control people. Right. Superman had to snap Zod's neck because Zod wouldn't turn it. If Zod would have turned the eye beams off, he wouldn't have to snap his neck. But he kept the eye beams on. Had to kill him. How do you conclude murder is wrong if morality is subjective? If I get to choose what's right and wrong is according to you. Because no one has the right to take away someone else's agency of life. And that means my agency to choose whether I want to breathe or not, my agency to choose um, how I want to die. You don't have the right to take away that agency from anybody else, just like no one else has that right to take that agency away from you. So therefore, murder is wrong. Whether somebody agrees or not, that is not subjective. There is no, it depends on if everybody agree or everybody don't agree. Murder is wrong. But whether you, from the fact that I have the right of agency myself, okay, this is not hard. I don't know why, and I had this question asked many times, and y'all keep doing the same little thing, but where do you get that from? Because you're trying to force me to say some Bible or something like that. I've expressed it. I got it from me. I got it from thinking. Every person has the right of agency of life. So I don't have to get it from anywhere. It's just is. No one has the right to take the life of another person because everybody has the right of life. If you are born, you have the right of life. It's just that simple. It's not subjective at all. And just think about it. That's all you gotta do. You see, people had that thought when they was living over here in the Americas before they ever heard of your Bible God. People had that thought in sub-Saharan Africa before they heard about your Bible God. They had that thought in India before they heard about your Bible God. They had that thought in China, Japan, the South Pacific before they heard about the Bible God. They had that thought in Northern Europe before they ever heard about the Bible God. People have to have that thought before the Bible God. So the agency of being able to live life is a common thought, is a common critical thinking process that says that it is not subjective. So what else we got here? Black Alexer said that if we're being realistic, morality is a dopamine in your brain telling you right from wrong. Shit, I could write a book today and claim that I'm a god, make up a god. You know, well, we have one called the Flying Spaghetti Month on Saturn. He decides what's right or wrong. He spins the Parmesan wheel. The great Parmesan wheel is spun. What do you say here? You're talking about Jesus, not other religions. I don't know if you was talking to me on that one, you Thor, but yes, my channel is Deconstructing Christianity. Because that's the religion that I came out of. Make a god from planet Ritz. Look, God from planet Ritz. Well, if was it? If you knew and you don't know where to go to, you got to go where fashion fits. Putting on the Ritz. Dress up like $1 million trooper. Trying hard to look like Gary Cooper. Super duper. If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, you gotta go where fashion fits. Worshiping the Ritz. That's gonna be the walk-in song for the choir. Mm-hmm. Now we got our flying spaghetti monster. We're gonna stick with our flying spaghetti monster as the god of the church. I don't know, is this guy still on? Oh, I didn't even see if this was still there. Cheese Ritz. I'm gonna put the cheese spread on it. Might have to, might have to. Might have to. But anyway, so this Jesus character, has offered no tangible benefits. I mean, as I was saying earlier, if the Jesus character, if his sacrifice, what they say is that his sacrifice, he saved you. You get salvation. This salvation is something that happens afterwards, that you get to go to heaven. Your sins are laid upon him and all this sort of thing, which I've already discussed. It's not a real salvation. It's not a real taking on of your sin. A real sacrifice, and the example that I like to give quite often is the fact that my son commits a murder, I go to jail. Well, he commits another murder. I go from 7 years in prison. Now I got 14 years. He commits another murder, and these murders are sins, so are analogous to sin. So he keeps on, and every time he commits a murder, I got to spend 7 more years in prison. I never get out of prison. I don't go home. I don't spend 3 years in prison and then go home, and then of course he murders somebody, and they're still saying that, well, we still putting that on his shoulders, but I'm home now. I'm home. So if Jesus actually sacrificed himself, his ass would still be in hell right now. He's still being, well, it wasn't hell that he supposed to went to. He's still being Abaddon, right? He's still being Sheol. This Jesus is alive. You can't take on the sins of the world, and you taking them on right now, and people are still sinning, according to their belief. They're still sinning. So it's not truly a sacrifice. It's some bullshit. It's all a bunch of bullshit. So so that in itself doesn't work. Now, it also doesn't work because in Ezekiel it said that the sins of the father does not pass down to the son, that you are responsible for your own sins. So somebody taking on your sins doesn't work anymore. So the scapegoat that they used to send out into the wilderness, that don't work anymore. So now he just changing it up for the human sacrifice of Jesus, even though he didn't sacrifice himself because he just took on the sins of the world for that time frame. What about all these other bastards that still so-called sinning today? Right? You still got your sins going on. So it just doesn't work. And then he's in heaven. That just simply doesn't work at all. Because sin cannot be where God is supposedly at. And Jesus is supposedly on the right hand of the Father. So how can those sins be piling up in heaven? It don't make sense. And then, how do you know that your sins are going to be forgiven at this end of life thing? You realize that this sacrifice does no benefit to your life right now. Nothing. What is the benefit to your life right now with this God and this so-called sacrifice? it holds zero benefit. Do you get special treatment while you're here on earth? Because we just talked about yesterday how they had a whole teen church, teen ministry camp, mystic teen ministry church camp, Christian camp, got wiped out. And unfortunately, I don't know, I haven't seen the recent news clippings, but the last time I saw, 23, 24 kids were missing. Christian camp. What's the benefit of Christian? What's the benefit? Where is the benefit to right now of this God, of this sacrifice? Because those kids at that camp, they were believing in this Jesus. And you know, a lot of Christians make them dumbass comments. Oh, God just so loved them so much, he just wanted them children with him right now. That's some bullshit consoling thing that people make up. That's what that is. That's we making up some BS constant ways to console ourselves for the unexplainable. And then, or we just don't, we know the reason why, and we just want to ignore it. The reason why is you know that this area is the major national disaster that happens is flooding. Doesn't happen all the time, but you still didn't build the damn camp in order to prevent loss of life for flooding. No early warning systems or nothing like that when the river overflows. So it happened in the middle of the night, 31 feet rose, and you had no early warning system in an area that you know that floods. That's your fault. It's not a punishment. That's your fault. That's not God trying to get those kids up there with him early. That's the builders of that place fault. That's man shit. Sure do, Brandon. Brandon asked if we, and matter of fact, we need to test it. Well, no, it did work. It worked yesterday. Now I'm gonna tell you, Brandon, we don't do no damn preaching. No, we don't do no preaching on here. But you click on that link. Hebrew Israelites said Yahweh is judging America. That's just they bullshit. That's some bullshit. Hebrew Israelites are the Power Rangers. Be cracking me up. Oh, welcome to being. Thank you for becoming a member on YouTube and supporting the channel. Shaka Nulu. All right, that's what's up. But thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate that. But click on the link, Brandon, that I just posted in the comments. But yeah, so where's this protection? What is it? That Jesus said that there'll be others who will come after him who will do greater miracles than he did. So what were some of the miracles of Jesus? He walked on water. Demonstrate it, please, Christians. Demonstrate the walking on water. He healed people. Come on, Christians. Roll up into the hospital and heal people. You're supposed to be able to do greater miracles than Jesus. Go to the hospitals. Heal some people. All right. You fed 4,000 or 6,000, depending upon which version that you read, people with a 2-piece fish sandwich. Come on. All right, we're going to bring Brandon up. What up there, Brandon?
How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Your volume
Good.
all the way. All right.
Well, first, I want to thank you for allowing me up here. I wanted to talk about subjective and objective morality with you. So Can you repeat back to me where you said you get your morality from?
Ultimately, from myself. It initially starts with my upbringing, my community, my parents, all the people around me, baseball coaches, football coaches. But even at the youngest of age, I decided which ones I would follow and which ones I wouldn't. Now, that's where I get the majority of my morality from. Uh, of course, to me, once you turn 30, all your morality need to come from you. I don't want to hear no, oh, well, my mama did this, my daddy did that. None of that past bullshit. Get over your trauma. You should work through it by that. You should be on the process of working through it by that time frame. But no, but my morality initially comes from my surroundings. But then as I grow, I contemplate and critically think through life and develop my own morality, which makes most of my morality subjective. Now, within that, there is the objective morality of the rights of agency. Every person who is a sentient person born has the certain, as to quote the Declaration of Independence, certain inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So this is why only a few moralities are objective, like murder, slavery, uh, stealing. Those are objective moralities.
So you said at a certain point, and when you become a mature adult, that you get to choose your morality, right?
No,
So you mentioned,
I said you start choosing even when you're young. I said at a certain age, you have no more excuses.
okay, no more excuses at a certain age.
Yeah,
So when you make that statement, you said no more excuse. That points to inobjective morality.
points to
So
what?
you don't truly
In
get to choose. Go ahead.
you said inobjective. What's an inobjective morality?
And so a objective and objective, the and before the O.
Oh, yes. Okay,
So
I got it.
murder, I got you. No worries. It's all good.
I thought
So
you were putting like a in dash objective morality.
no,
No,
no, no.
never heard that one.
Um, so what it seems like to me is you are pointing to some objective moralities, and my question is, it cannot, or statement rather, it cannot be solely maintained by individuals and persons. So I can't choose a morality and you can't choose a morality. There has to be something greater that talks about morality. Because, for instance, and this is the hallmark go to, right? Let's just talk about Nazi Germany, right? It
Uh-huh.
was moral in their society to do X. They subjectively said that we could do whatever we wanted with this subset of people because of a greater goal or whatever they had in mind. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
No, I agree with that. Societies can make and determine their own moralities, even if it's in opposition of what I'm saying is an objective morality.
So you believe that they were okay in choosing that
No,
for.
no, because them choosing that violates the objective morality of the right of life,
Okay, where does the right of life come from?
being born, existence, as a sentient being, just being born. The
But
fact
I
that you
have the
exist,
choice to
that's it.
disagree with that.
You can have the choice to disagree with it, but it doesn't mean that you're right. You're still wrong.
Okay, so therefore there's no truth, right?
No,
Truth doesn't change based on someone's opinion,
that
right?
is the truth. There is truth. The truth is no one has the right to take anyone's life. That is a truth, regardless of what your opinions are. That is the truth, regardless if you commit to it, regardless if you believe that you are right to take someone's life. you are in violation of that truth.
Right. Okay, I understand. So my question is, where do you get that truth from? Because you're saying it's an opinionated but not opinionated. Where does the truth to sentient beings having a right to life, where does that come from?
From critically thinking through the observation of life. Like if you just watch nature, critically think through it. Every living thing has a right to life, right?
Okay.
Now there is a balance of consumption, a what the Lion King called it, the circle of life.
Right.
There are prey and predator, and that is to every degree there is prey and predator. But when it comes to beings of the same species, but we're talking about humans. I don't want to get all into every
Sure.
little animal on the planet.
Sure.
But beings of the same species, you have a right to life where the other similar people of your exact same species has no right to take that from you.
Right. Okay. So I believe you're taking a biblical concept and not giving the Bible credit for it.
At the same time, someone could say, I'm taking a Sumerian concept or an Akkadian concept and not giving them the credit for it, since the Akkadian concept was written long before the Bible was ever written. Could the same thing be said?
Say that again.
Could another person say that I'm taking away the credit from the Akkadians, since the Akkadians existed before the Israelites? Their laws about murder existed before the Bible ever existed, or any Hebrew writing ever existed. Before Hebrew
Right. So
writing.
inscription, got you. Inscription and transcription doesn't necessarily mean predating.
Explain.
Okay. Sure. So just because someone wrote something down first doesn't mean that it predated God's natural law. Right? So the Bible says, and I know you said you don't want me to preach, but I'm not going to preach. But in Romans 2:15 it says that I will write the law on their hearts. So we talk about the law, right? The 10 Commandments, and I think those are some of the things that you're saying that are objective moralities, right? Stealing, murder, and coveting, those things. If God wrote the law on man's heart, doesn't matter who wrote it first.
But how can you prove that the God of the Bible is the God that wrote it on man's heart? Just because they said so in the 2nd century CE? See, the burden of proof, when you say that God wrote it on man's heart, now you have a burden of proof. How do you prove that the God of the Bible did that when there was no such thing as a Hebrew and man was existing in civilizations? And within those civilizations, they had laws against murder.
So you're talking about proof of the Bible. So the Old Testament was written before the 2nd century.
You just said Romans.
Right, but that goes back to Jeremiah as well. So that is just a reference to Jeremiah in the Old Testament.
So Jeremiah. So we're talking 6th to 5th and 6th century BCE.
Sure.
All right, 5th and 6th century BCE. Akkadians existed 5000 BCE. There was no such thing as a Hebrew back then. No Israelites. According to the Bible's own timeline, 5000 BCE, no Hebrews, no Israelites. Yet the Akkadians had within their laws that you should not murder, that murder was illegal. So now you would have to prove
So I think it goes
that
back
your
to,
God,
it goes back. Go ahead.
now you have to prove that your God put the laws in their hearts, but they believe they worship Enlil, Enki, Anu, All of them. So
Sure, I don't think. Go ahead.
if I was someone who believed in their religion, then I would say that in Romans, in Jeremiah, they are taking the credit from Anu, from Enlil, from Anu and Enlil. They are taking the credit and giving it to their God. Because the Hebrew God started out as Yahweh, which was a Canaanite storm deity, and then merged with the Canaanite god El by the time we get to the 4th and 5th century.
Right. I think what you're having a hard time explaining to me is that the law is written on man's heart, right? What I'm proposing is that whoever those people were in those societies had God's natural law written on their hearts. And that's what you're carrying forth through today, right? You don't believe in the God of Yahweh, but you still
Prove,
have the law that God has written on your heart when saying that there are objective moralities.
prove that your God wrote it on my heart.
Because it's there.
Because somebody wrote it? Because somebody wrote that in a book? That's proof that your God did it?
Is it there? Yes or no?
That's not proof. That's not proof.
So,
Just to
okay.
say, is it if okay, that's the same as when people who believe in the Bible say your existence itself is proof of my God of the Bible. But my existence could be proof of Enlil and Enki in their creation of man. You see what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I think the same
The
burden of
same
proof is on
claim
you
that
as well to prove that
no,
it's not Yahweh's law that's on your heart.
I can. The reason why I can prove that it's not Yahweh's law that's on my heart because Yahweh didn't exist before this was a common thought in man.
Well, no, I would disagree because I go back to transcription and inscription does not mean that someone did not exist. Because it wasn't written down does not mean that Yahweh didn't exist.
Okay, so you Yahweh, when did? So you had no Hebrews, no Shashu, not even the Shashu, which is the first identification of anybody worshiping the God Yahweh was the Shashu people, right? So we have no Shashu, no Canaanites, no Israelites in 5000 BCE. The name Yahweh didn't exist. It was non-existent. Wasn't a part of anybody's pantheon because those people didn't exist yet. So how can Yahweh
But I
exist
don't.
when every God exists only because people are naming that God? Before, and the people who lived in Tadan Tepe and Gobekli Tepe, as is identifiable right now, practice shamanism. They looked at the sky, they had shapes of the sky, shapes of the constellation, animals have spirits, everything, the earth has spirits. That was the belief of the people 8,000, 12,000 BCE. No Yahweh.
Right, but the Bible chronicles people before they were Hebrews, before they were Israelites,
So basically
before
what you're saying
God
is that
made
the
Israel the
Bible,
land of his chosen people. I'm
Bible
sorry, go ahead.
you're just saying the Bible says so, so that's what I just believe. Because I'm giving you archaeological evidence. This is archaeological evidence. When you look at the timeline of the Bible only goes back to 4,637 BCE when you look at the chronological order. And that includes people before Abraham and people before Abraham, all the way back to Adam. 4,000, well, yeah, back to Adam. 4,637 BCE is roughly about the time frame. There were civilizations before that. So the Bible does not chronicle the people before 4000 BCE, 4600 BCE. But we know archaeologically they existed. The Bible is simply given a created, honestly, it's just a created history for a group of people who call themselves Israelites, and they created their own antiquity. Because there's no proof of any of these people ever existing. There's no proof
There's
of
no proof
Moses.
of people existing?
There's no proof of those people existing. There's no
Who's
proof of
those?
Moses.
Be specific.
There's no proof of Moses. There's no proof of Abraham. There's no proof of Adam and Eve. None. No city of
So you
Nod
don't
that came.
believe in oral tradition?
Oral tradition may have started with some level of fact, but oral tradition is not factual. So no, because oral tradition, you played the telephone game in school. You know when that teacher starts out and they tell the first person, then by the time they come around to the 50th person, that whole story is different. So no, I don't believe in oral tradition. We've demonstrated that oral tradition is not factual. This is why in our modern day court system, eyewitness testimony is the least provable testimony. You need more than eyewitness testimony.
Right. But I think, and as far as the Bible is concerned, and we're, especially the New Testament, we're talking about eyewitness testimony, and we're talking about several of those, right? So we're talking over 500. But I want to go back to something. I don't want to get off the beaten path.
I know, but those are not eyewitness testimonies. Not one person in the New Testament is an eyewitness testimony. Those 500, a dude told Paul about.
So nobody in the New Testament is an eyewitness?
No, not one. Not
so
one.
Mary's not an eyewitness?
What Mary?
To the resurrection?
Mary where? What's proof that Mary was there?
At the cave?
Who wrote that Mary was there?
It's in the Gospels.
But those Gospels are not eyewitness accounts. That's the problem. Luke admits he's not an eyewitness.
So you don't believe anything can be true then?
I'm just saying those people are not.
Okay, so prove to me George Washington lived.
See, that's the difference. We do have writings from contemporaries of people who were actually alive during the time frame of George Washington. We don't have anything from eyewitnesses at the time frame of Jesus. What you call the Gospels today, Justin Martyr originally called the wisdom of the apostles. But then Irenaeus in 182 is the one who named them Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Prior to 182, they weren't even named.
That's not true. Huh? That's not true. I'm not gonna let you get away with that one.
You can go and read Justin Martyr. We have Justin Martyr's writings where he called them the wisdom of the apostles. We have Irenaeus in 182 naming them Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. That's not even debatable. Scholars don't even debate that.
Okay, so no one who wrote the Gospels we don't know who wrote them. That's wild. That's wild.
Yeah, they're all anonymous. They're anonymously written.
That's not true. Pull it up. Pull it up. Share your screen.
Pull up what?
Pull up that it is a fact from the church fathers that the writers of the New Testament, namely the Gospels, are anonymous.
Let's see. I don't know if I can do that on here, but let's find out. We are about to find out.
See, we got off the beaten path, but can you put a pin in that? I really want to go back because we're not going to get back to subjective and objective morality. We're just going to keep moving, which I understand and respect. You've been really respectful. But I think that you are creating subjective morality under the name of objective because your opinion is attached to it. So when you say, well, someone can make a choice to do something against someone else, like harm them, right? The natural law, and they would be okay for doing that, but it's still wrong. You're still creating an opinionated basis for right and wrong by saying, oh, you look at nature, you look at the world, and you came to this conclusion. Well, someone can say the same thing, but you're saying that they're wrong no matter what conclusion that they came to. So you are creating subjective morality into objectiveness because you have decided so, not what objective morality really is, which transcends all personal opinion.
Actually, that's not what I'm doing. The objective morality is of the life, of the ability to live, of murder. It does transcend all other people's opinions. Now, because we are creatures of reason, we can reason things in or out. We can decide things, yes or no. We can override that and live our lives however we choose because we do have free will to do so. But that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it okay. So the universal law of gravity is that a core of any physical body in the universe is going to have gravity and is going to attract things towards it, right? And
Sure, gravity, sure.
I'm not trying to get into a flat earth thing, so please let's not do that. I don't know if you
I'm
want
not
to
flat. I don't care either way.
But can we fight against gravity and leave and elevate higher into the sky through past the Earth's atmosphere and leave there's a certain level of thrust that is required to go beyond the gravity of the Earth. So we can somewhat break that law, even though the Earth's gravity was still pulling on. It doesn't mean Earth doesn't have gravity. The Earth still has gravity, but we can violate that law if we choose to.
And I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that's a 1-to-1 because the force of gravity is only a numerical amount of force. So if we create one not more than that, then we can go, right?
Right, but
so the law of gravity is
always
not broken. I'm sorry. The law of gravity states, and I forget it, I don't know, I haven't done physics since college, but it states that it is this amount of pull, right? It will always be this amount of pull, no matter what, right? If you create something that has a little bit more push than the pull, you didn't break the law of gravity because gravity only has a certain amount of pull.
That's my point. The law, the objective morality of murder is never broken. It's just that people apply enough of their own push to change, to break the law, not to do outside of the law. Let me not say break the law, but to do outside of the law. In the example that you gave, if Mustache Man, if he was talking about other Aryans, no, murder is wrong. And he knows murder is wrong. We're not going to murder other Aryans, right? Other true Germans. But for these people that we don't consider to be true Germans, we can murder them. So what we have is the ability to create rationales to justify breaking an objective morality.
I agree with you.
Right, but you were saying, but see, morality,
the ability to transcend natural law exists. That's where you talk about free will. But natural law still exists. It has to come from somewhere, not the opinion of somebody, because you just said it. Someone's opinion, it didn't matter what the natural law said, so he got to choose his own morality. That's exactly what you're doing. You're choosing your own morality, but saying it's objective.
It's objective because just being in existence, the reason why the natural laws, you say they have to come from somewhere. The natural law of gravity exists because matter exists. Right? Without matter, you have no gravity.
Go ahead. Okay.
The natural law of murder being wrong is because I exist, because you exist. And that's not Kool-Aid, is it?
Never. Water only. A gallon a day.
You opened that up for me, so I couldn't help it. But so the natural law of gravity exists because matter exists, right? It didn't take anything but matter existing in the natural law of gravity, and every other natural law exists because matter exists. Because we exist, the objective morality of murder exists. If we didn't exist, there would be no need for a law of murder, a natural law of murder. You understand what I'm saying? So like,
okay.
Right. So
I don't think that goes against the Bible, by the way.
It doesn't have to, but see, just because the Bible says it, but so does so many other religions say it. So I know a Kush is in here, and I haven't been looking at what a Kush says, but I'm sure she knows. I think a Kush is a woman. I'm not sure. I forgot. They told me once before, but I'm sure they can tell us that in the Vedas, it probably says the same thing, right? Because they practice Hinduism. So the Vedas would say the same thing. I know the Tao says the same thing, and that's not a religion, it's more of a philosophy. Buddhism says the same thing. Sufism says the same thing. All these other religions say the same thing. Even for the people who was in the Americas before anyone from that Levant, that Mediterranean religion came to the Americas, they believed it. Now you will say, oh, that's God putting it on their hearts. But but no. Here's the problem with that thought process, because yours is subjective. The people of the Cherokee Nation who believed in their God, or the Aztecs who believed in Quetzalcoatl, they could say, since Quetzalcoatl said that he put the laws on man of those laws on man's heart, he's the reason why you people in the Levant believe that. It wasn't Yahweh, it was Quetzalcoatl. They have just as much right as you have to say your God does. The only reason they lose is because the conquistadors had guns and they murdered them and killed them and enslaved them through violence. The only reason the Bible exists as a major religion is through violence. So
that's not true.
Come on, man. It's completely true.
So what about the persecuted Christians in the early church? And it was still spreading. So hundreds of years in persecution, and it still grew.
And the Judaism was still growing and being persecuted as well for hundreds of years. Right. Many were, but it wasn't until Theodosius in 382 who declared Rome to be Christian and killed anybody who disagreed, and then forced the Roman Empire to be Christian, which included all the Levant, North Africa, and most of Europe. And it was through force. See, you can't take, you take a couple of years, in the grand scheme of it, you're taking this much persecution and try to make it seem like it's this much. But you got this much persecution, but you got this much oppression of Christians being the oppressors.
What's going on? Oh, sorry, I was talking to my neighbor. Yeah, listen, I gotta hop off. I appreciated it. I still don't think that you have that objective and subjective thing worked out.
I got it completely worked out. I think that you have confirmation bias. That no matter how it's ever explained to you, you are going to only view it through your biblical lens, because you already have the landing point of the Bible. And so you can't see the balance of anybody else from any other religion can make the same claim that you're making, yet none of you can prove it. But
no other religion. No other religion says love your enemies.
Bullshit.
What major religion? Not some fringe, not that came after. Oh, I gotta get off.
Buddhism
Uh,
came before Christianity. Says the same thing. Came before Christianity. 500 years before Christianity. Says the same thing.
I'll look it up. Not true. I need a source, but I do have to run. I don't want to jet out. I don't want to start something new. I don't want to do that to you. I want to be respectful. Like I said, I had to run, but yeah, and
Yes,
you
if you,
have a good one.
I know you have to run. I appreciate it, but I'm going to cover something that you said. Let me pop this up real quick. I don't know if you're. Give me 1 second. Um, Shit, how do I get it back on there? Oh yeah. This is just a basic. This is not even me using Google Scholar, which I would normally use Google Scholar, but I ain't have time. I ain't feel like going all the way in it. But yes, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are considered anonymous in the saying that they are not explicitly stated the author's names within the text itself. It's anonymously written. What up, Black Alistair? Is that Alistair Crowley?
You got to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable.
Oh man, I need to go put my shirt on. Got to put the shirt on for you.
Oh man, I want to stay on topic though. So
Right.
yeah. So you believe the sacrifice of Jesus? Yep, was worthless. It was useless. I do too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Completely.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I've expressed my thoughts on it 50, 11 times. You've expressed your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, really, what it all boils down to, again, it's confirmation bias. So that's how. That's why I kept putting it in there. I'm like, I'm trying to help you out, coach. It's confirmation bias. Like them people go always, subject to Jesus. Jesus paved the way for this and all that for everybody. And I'm like, no,
Right.
no.
I appreciate the calm conversation that Brandon was having, but the
Mm-hmm.
confirmation bias was quite evident in just the fact that if you cannot understand how every culture can claim the same thing about their God, then you are simply using confirmation bias. You're trying to use your God as a catch-all. But it's not a catch-all when the God didn't even exist as far as man's knowledge of this God until, truthfully, around the 17th, 18th century with the shot shoot people. And that's just because we're going to go with Yahweh being just a minor storm deity. But he didn't become a primary deity of what the people who call themselves Israelites until around the 13th century BCE. So, and we're talking 1200s BCE. So this God didn't even exist as a major deity. He's only been existing as a major deity for about 3,200 years. I mean, yeah,
exactly. Short amount of time.
And we got other cultures that's been around
way longer than that.
Years longer.
Way longer than that.
That supposedly existed for thousands of years before that.
And just like you said in your recent videos, because I've been a follower of your channel. Ooh, let's see. Been following you for like maybe 6 years. And I heard you mention the youngest, driest flood. And I'm like, yeah, so Islam, Christianity, Judaism, the Abrahamic religion, all that came afterwards. So they're new. So yeah, and like you said, and before the youngest, driest flood, you had what was that? The Babylonians, I guess. Or was that?
You're putting it
That was after. Okay, so that was also after. Okay.
Yeah. So the younger, driest flood happened somewhere between 12,000 to 9,000 BCE.
Ah, okay.
All of known history has come after that. Well, I ain't gonna say all of. Almost all of known history has come after that.
Even the Anunnaki story.
Even the Anunnaki story, because the Sumerians and the Akkadians didn't write that until like 3,000, 4,000 BCE, around that
That would
time.
make sense.
Yeah,
That makes
so
perfect sense.
they, even though they were around for a couple of thousand years prior to that, they didn't actually put it in. The cuneiforms that we found date back to like 3,000 3,000, 4,000 BCE. So
Right.
they might have been
So,
telling the story.
mhm. With that being said, so because a lot of it, you know, again, like you said before in your recent videos, all of these religions again are made up stories of what they thought again were to be deities at work when it's just really the force of nature,
Yeah,
right?
that's all. Yes,
That's all it is. So, and again, with the confirmation bias with that is, you know, people don't believe that, you know, nah, you know, who makes it rain and thunderstorm, tornadoes, hurricanes. And I'm like, that's just that's the weather pattern off coming off the horizon.
exactly.
So that's what that is. Like, no, there's nobody in outer space or in the clouds making all this stuff happen. No. And
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you like when he mentioned oral tradition, I started to, but I
Mhm.
just neglected to do it. That's
Yeah.
like believing in the in Kosan. No, you got that. You got to say the little click. I can't say. I don't know how to do the African click, but the
Mhm.
Kosa people,
Mhm.
they say that the stars were created because a little girl grabbed some ash and embers from a fire and threw it up in the sky, and that became the
Mm.
stars so that people can navigate at night. But
Mm.
before that, the skies was dark. Now that's an oral tradition, but am I to believe some little girl did
No,
that? No.
no. Women, that's too far from the truth. So that's I'm like, yeah, that's not how that works. So yeah, the universe, how the universe came into be, you know, they talk about the Big Bang and all that. So, you know, it's just it's it's energy that came into form, like because you know, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, only transformed and transferred. So a lot of people keep trying to say, like, you know, something created the universe. Well, what is that something? You see what I'm saying? Can't call it God. I mean, you know, it just came into being. We don't have any proof of who or what created the universe. I'll tell you something else. So you don't believe in the supernatural either, right?
No, it's just nature
I
that we
don't
don't
either.
understand.
Exactly. I don't either. There's nothing supernatural in nature.
Yeah.
So everything in the universe operates and functions the way that it was meant to. Energy transforming. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So with that being said, that's how that works. So the way the stars, the moon, and the sun orbiting and all that, nobody put that there. You see what I'm
No.
saying? That's just energy transformed into from one thing to another.
Right. Just
So
transmutation.
that's how that works. You see what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
And
Physics,
nothing and nothing
mathematics, all that. Yeah.
and
Yep.
there is no time frame that anybody will be able to ever pinpoint when the universe came into being. The universe has
Mhm.
always been into it's just always been here. Just transmuted,
Internal. Yeah. It's eternal.
just energy
Eternal.
just transmute. You know, it's
Hmm.
Lion King, Circle of Life.
Hmm.
It spans long, way beyond just on Earth. You know,
Hmm.
stars are created, stars die. Stars are created,
Hmm.
stars die. Planets are created, planets die.
Yep.
Simple as that. But there is no true death. They just transform into something else. You know,
Into something else. Yep.
if we have a massive solar flare that burns out, actually, that's not even the way the heat death. You got the heat death, but you also got the fact that before the heat death happens, our sun will turn into a red giant. But
Hmm.
the size that it would be as a red giant, it will fully consume all the inner planets. And so the matter that makes up the earth will simply transmute into being part of the matter that makes up that red giant.
Hmm.
It didn't die,
Yep.
it just became something else.
It became something else.
Yeah. Now, no other new planets will probably be created that we can live on. You know, not just scoot on somewhere else, but we're talking 3, 4 billion, trillion years from now. So it doesn't
Hmm.
affect me. So I
Right.
don't worry about it.
Most of us
So
won't be
planet
able to see
activity,
it
I
no
worry.
way. Yeah.
Huh?
When that red giant dude decides to turn into a supernova, we won't be here. No way.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
long gone. Probably would have been burnt
Right.
by a massive solar flare
Oh man.
long before that,
Oh
and
man. Yeah.
there won't be life on this
So.
little ball anyway.
Oh no. Yeah. Either we kill each other or the sun gonna take our ass.
That part, and then we don't even have to the Bible
Right.
says that man was given dominion over the whole earth. We don't have dominion over this damn earth.
Right.
Slight level of custodialship,
Mm-hmm.
only because we can create stuff that messes up the earth and we get out of source energy of the earth. But we don't even have dominion over this earth, so we ain't even got to destroy ourselves. The earth will kill us.
The earth will kill us. What was that just recently? What was that? An earthquake or some storm hit Texas? Killed what? 78 people. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, either we kill ourselves, the earth go kill us, or space go kill us.
Yeah, that's right up the street from me. I live in San Antonio.
Right.
So
okay.
that's what I was talking about earlier.
You're down in Texas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, so the Kerrville is like an hour and a half over there.
Oh, wow.
And I was saying that like a couple of months back, my wife and I drove past that mystic camp that got flooded with them kids. It was like 23, 24 kids in there.
Wow.
That camp is a huge Christian camp.
Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we actually drove into it because we saw all these cars going in there, and we thought that it was like maybe a state park or something. But we drove in and it was like, oh no, shit, this is a Christian camp, Christian youth camp, right? And so we left. But it sits on like hundreds of acres of land. Those kids are missing, and I hope that they find the kids alive.
I hope they find them too. Yeah.
But those kids are missing because the river rose 31 feet in a few hours in the middle of the night.
Wow.
The builders of that camp didn't have any early warning systems for that happening, right? But you know that area is susceptible to floods. So it ain't Satan. It ain't a God either.
Nope.
That's man in his arrogance of thinking, oh, we're gonna build this nice camp. The river, we are in a 10-year, a 2-3 year drought. However long this drought been going, there's no big deal. We don't need to build these, spend the money.
Yeah, if you don't understand nature and you don't know anything about that area, don't build anything on that area. Right?
Nature will win. One of the reasons we moved to San Antonio is because we looked at the weather patterns for everywhere in the United States. We said, what is the place that we will least likely have to deal with a natural disaster? That is why we live here.
Yep.
San Antonio. Because we ain't dealing with the cold. I saw that movie the day after tomorrow, whatever it was called, something like that. Day after tomorrow.
Yeah, the day after tomorrow.
We're gonna have a head start. We got a head start on all y'all. Where you at?
Yeah. I am in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah, see, that shit happened, you dead. We got a head start.
Exactly. Shoot. I was man. Canada, that would be like the first one to like over freeze. Cause
y'all
if that were stuck, cause remember how it all started. It started out with tornadoes, hurricanes, and just went into a deep freeze.
Yeah, and if there's an ice age, and let's say it's a rapid ice age, even if it's a rapid ice age that happens over a few weeks, you got that whole lake and all that kind of shit, and then
we're surrounded by water, right?
And then I'm gonna be honest, y'all stupid. Humans are dumb. Y'all dumbasses gonna be up there like, nah, we just gonna be in the house and get some blankets, and we got
right.
Y'all don't know how to read.
Gonna freeze to death, right?
It's like them dumbass people in New Orleans when Katrina hit. Oh, I now waited out so many hurricanes. No, motherfucker, leave. This is nature.
Exactly.
No,
man, Katrina, we saw the debris up here from Michigan. I'm like, Katrina was so big, it covered almost half the United States, right?
Yeah, it was.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, wow. That was in 2005. Yeah.
People stay. And just like Shaka Nulu talking about some, that's why he lived in Vegas. Vegas get y'all. You saw that when Vegas got flooded, y'all get too much rain. The whole streets and everything was flooded out all over downtown. Man, please, you live in Vegas and let that dam break. Everybody was dead.
Man, so yeah, and you gotta know how to prepare. So you gotta know when to start, when to prepare. Yeah.
So these people talking about this belief in this guy. So to go back to the subject matter, what is the benefit of salvation, of being saved, if it doesn't provide you a benefit of, if the as far as Shaka's talking some, but no natural disasters. Y'all got flooded. But what's the benefit? If Joe Curry living in New York, NYC, you Christian, big ass ice age happened. Your God ain't gonna just lift you up and teleport your ass, to the tropics.
Nope.
No, you don't get there's no extra benefit to believing in this God.
Exactly. It's all up to you. You have to critically think in situations like that when natural disasters happen. You see what I'm saying? So when nature takes its course. So yeah, you have to, prepare and find like the route where to go, like where the disaster won't hit or anything like that. So it ain't no God or nobody telling you to go here or go there. You see what I'm saying? No.
Exactly. And they like to harp on those things, like in Tornado Alley, the tornado come in and tear down every house in the town, but the church is still standing. I'm like, one, that's just happened to be where the tornado went. Two, which is more important? The tornado missing the church or the tornado missing 35 Christian houses that the people were actually in when the tornado hit?
Exactly.
How about if this guy was actually trying to protect the people, it should have missed the 30, 40 houses of Christians.
Exactly.
Who are now homeless or dead, instead of, it didn't blow up the church, or it tears up a house, but the Bible's still sitting on the table. But the family got flung 30 goddamn yards away and died.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying? That's dumb.
That's dumb.
Right. And then instead of focusing on that, if you got some benefits from it, why y'all ain't in the hospital healing all these children with cancer?
Exactly. Exactly. Cancer. They claim they got all this divine power, this spiritual power. Okay, like go into the hospital and go to these clinics and stuff where people need to be healed. You think the people don't want to be healed? You think they don't want to live out the rest of their life? Yes, of course.
Let me tell you, there's only I used to say there's nothing that can convert me back to Christianity.
Nothing here either. Look, Coach, I didn't try Judaism. Believe it or not, I was a Hebrew Israelite. Don't look like it, but I was. I was also a Sufi Muslim. And I've been a Christian for almost 18 years of my life. I denounced Christianity, went to Islam, tried Islam for like maybe 6 months. I had to speak Arabic, and that was frustrating. So I know a little Arabic. And then I started hanging out with the Hebrews, like the so-called real Jews. So I don't know if you can find a video on YouTube, but I was on that street corner saying, bring it out, reading that damn scripture. So, but yeah, I was a part of all that. And I am technically basically just what they call it now, agnostic. So, but yeah, I don't believe in that God stuff no more. Like, the devil made me do it, and no angel, no demon, no God influencing nothing here, just all me. It took me a minute, and like I'm 31 now, so it took me almost, let's say, 27 all my life. So I'm like, I knew the Bible, and I went to church. Like I was in church like 3 or 4. I was 3 or 4 years old, and let me my mom can tell you. It's just, I don't know what it is, but when I was like around 2 or 3, as a baby, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know no better. And My mom can tell you. It's just there's something about that Bible, the book, that I just didn't like it, and I set the damn thing on fire.
Uh-huh.
So, and yeah, boy, I was in trouble. But I set it on fire, and my parents drug my ass to church ever since then. So I'm like, and I didn't like it. I didn't like sitting in church all them long ass hours reading Bible scriptures, and I'm like, none of it made any damn sense. So I'm like, so Jesus did all this, and God did all that to save his people, and the world is just getting worse and worse and worse. So
Mhm.
I'm like, no, that ain't happening. This is all the work of man. That's all this is.
It,
And nature taking its course.
that's why
That's it.
yesterday I was saying that if we wanted to end suffering, that no
Hmm.
God is going to do it. But man does
No.
have the ability to minimize suffering
Yes.
far greater than what we are existing in today.
But we
We have,
choose not to. Right.
yeah, we have
Yeah, we
that ability.
choose not to.
We
Yeah.
can do it. And
Hmm.
I understand, like I did the jumping a little bit. I didn't fully become Muslim. So
Hmm.
when I first stepped out of Christianity, I was studying the Nation of Islam,
Hmm.
Muslims, and then I started studying Malcolm X's version. And
Hmm.
after I read his autobiography in 1990, but then I went to Saudi Arabia and I said, "Oh wait, hey, shit, this is the real." And so I started like looking at theirs, but then I was after looking at theirs and then looking at the ones in Dubai and Bahrain, I was like, "Oh
Hmm.
hell, no.
Right.
I'm not dealing with this bullshit." So
Right.
and then I started studying Hinduism and then Buddhism, and I did like Buddhism because it doesn't have a god.
Hmm. Right.
It's more of a philosophy.
Buddha is more, yeah, he was more peaceful. Siddhartha, his real name.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was more about peace and focusing on the inner being, inner self, meditation, things of that nature.
But all that suffering
I
and getting rid of desire, I was like, hell no.
right now that that I couldn't get past. So I was like, no, it's human nature to desire, and all that. So,
But
but
I don't see desire as anything wrong with it. We talked about
right.
that yesterday. Uh,
Hmm.
desire, wanting,
Hmm.
needing, that creates problems. That creates suffering.
Hmm.
I
Right.
disagree with desire creating suffering, right?
Hmm. Right.
Because
It's not
when
the
I
desire itself, right?
when I desire great things for my children, that does not create suffering.
Right.
When
Right.
I desire to love my wife, that does not create suffering. So
Right.
yeah, that I was like, no.
No.
But I understood the philosophy. But then I discovered the Tao when I was struggling with the Buddhist thought process. Um,
Hmm.
a gentleman and gave me the Tao, and I was like,
Hmm.
okay then. And I love how the Tao says that once you understand the way, you no longer need Buddhism. So
Exactly.
basically, he was saying once you understand the way, you no longer need any religion,
Exactly.
right? You just flow in the natural order of the way, which I was reading the Kabbalion at the same time that I was reading the Tao, so they merged incredibly well. Right?
Now, just so you know, I do have a lot of books on this stuff that we're talking about. I have a Kabbalion. I have studied the Golden Dawn. I've studied a lot of stuff dealing with mysticism, occultism. So understanding a lot about how, the universe works, astrology and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. I saw your necklace.
Yep. Sorcerer. Yep. I study
I,
Alistair Crowley. I study all forms of witchcraft, sorcery. Yep. Yep.
and I read them, um,
Hmm.
and what I came away with is the fact that most of it is just rituals to move your own energy or move
Right.
the energy
Internal.
around you.
I
It's
call
not
it internal sorcery. Yep.
right. It's not really, you got to have an eye of Newton kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
how do I get my mind and all my energies in alignment so that I can manifest whatever it is I've mentally created and I've emotionalized or use sexual energy or power energy,
Hmm.
whatever, to be able
Exactly.
to do what I need to do.
Exactly.
Nothing else beyond that. I read Solomon Key's both books, and I recognize that this shit was written way after Solomon, if he ever existed, but way after him. So there's no validation that Solomon wrote any damn thing.
No.
But I had problems with the whole this demon is for that. If you use them as archetypes, sure, but them existing as actual beings, hell no. I'm not accepting it. Even though the law of correspondence says that there are consciousness higher and lower, and we can see that as we
do
exist.
believe that. Yeah, I do believe that. Okay, yep.
I just don't. Me having control, because the Keys of Solomon is talking about how he took control of one of them damn demons and he built the temple, Solomon's
temple. Okay, yeah, Solomon Temple. Yep.
Yeah, no. Shit was built by a dude, by a whole bunch of people.
Exactly. I think where that's coming from is that because with the Keys of Solomon, and referring to the demons, I think this is a thing dealing with the consciousness, subconsciousness, that type of thing. I think it's something, it's alchemical. So dealing with the inner energies. So yeah, no demons, none of that on the outside, nothing external. So yeah, I think what he was doing, he took control of something within himself and taught, I guess, the other people how to build the temple, because those were people, not demons.
Well, he take control of his own self, and then he got Hiram Abiff to build the temple. He was the master builder, the architect of building Solomon's temple, and then he got all the people together. These are the plans. This is how we finna do this thing.
Exactly.
It's just like one any other construction site.
I also wholeheartedly believe that the Keys of Solomon is also dealing with what's that? Geometry is geometrical also. So yeah, mathematicals, like stuff like that. So
there is some level of, to understand natural forces in the universe, you have to be able, there's applied math that goes with it. Right.
Exactly.
And that's just how the universe works. There's a mathematical equation for everything in the universe.
Exactly.
When John Dees was having a problem, I think it was John Dees. Yeah, when he was having a problem with the situation that he was observing in the sky and it wasn't working right, it didn't come out. What he created, calculus, after that. Like a problem presented itself, he created a new form of math because
that's it.
He has a mathematical attachment to it. Even with the discoveries of planets, they knew that certain planets, that between every planet, there's a certain amount that planet. Wait, let me rephrase how it goes. Every planetoid in our solar system, every planet has a twin. Right, almost every planet has a twin. And there's a certain amount of distance between the twins, between that. That math worked all the way out throughout our entire solar system. The only problem is where the asteroid belt is, there should be a planet. That's the only hiccup in that math. That is why there's the theory that the asteroid belt used to be a planet.
Right.
And I forgot, it was a dude in the mid 1900s who figured that shit out.
What was his name? Zachariah Stitchin?
Oh no.
Okay,
Zachariah Stitchin, he did the whole Nibiru and all that stuff.
Okay, so because the asteroid belt. So you said it used to be a planet. I was thinking Planet X or Tiamat. So,
no, it would be Tiamat.
It would be Tiamat. Okay,
the asteroid belt would be Tiamat in the Babylonian and Sumerian story.
Oh, okay.
That would be Tiamat, which would actually make Mars a moon, and Mars does act and look like a moon more so than it does a planet. So the thought is that whatever that, if it was Tiamat, according to the Babylonian story and the Sumerian story, that was Tiamat. It's just the difference is Marduk kills Tiamat in the Babylonian story, but in the Sumerian story, it's Enlil who kills Tiamat.
Right.
But that is supposedly a planet. That's the asteroid belt. Which
wow. So damn, TMI must have been big. Wow, TMI must have been big. So that was a big ass planet. Wow.
Yeah, it would have been because, but the only other problem with his example, his thing is Mercury doesn't have a twin. So like,
it does.
Because Earth and Venus are more like twins. Jupiter and Saturn are twins.
Yeah.
Neptune and Uranus are twins.
Yep.
So Mercury doesn't have a twin, and Tiamat would not have a twin unless you say Mars would be the twin. The moon, it would be a twin with his own moon. It would be the only way that would kind of fit. But the thing about it is that math, they were able to figure out where all these other planets are because of math. But then also because of math, it was something had to happen because Uranus is tilted sideways and its orbit has got thrown off. So something screwed up that planet. Threw it off. Was it part of the explosion from the Tiamat planet?
Could have been. Right. But don't know, but that could have been. Right.
Yeah, it's going to take a hell of a lot more because one of the other problems that the amount of debris that is in the asteroid does not equate to what the size of that planet should have been.
Exactly.
So that's problematic.
That's why I was saying that they was a big planet.
but it's not so much problematic when you look at it from an explosion standpoint. Most of the debris material is going to be vaporized as well as ejected, in every direction. And so only a small portion would remain. Okay. And the gentleman who figured that out, they were really spying on the Russians. And they were looking at when satellites are destroyed, how the satellite pieces look after they're destroyed. And how they form this thin little ring of debris that kind of goes around the Earth until gravity grabs it and brings it down. Like most of the shooting stars that people think they're seeing is actually just pieces of satellites that's been destroyed.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay, because
most of it is that. I mean, you have your Pleiades, and you had your time frames. Like in November, you got one asteroid, and one meteorites that are hitting. But when you just seeing it on a regular July day,
right?
It's just pieces of that. Yeah. So
that's what that is. But well, Coach, I did enjoy having this conversation with you. So, because I said, God damn it, I knew I was gonna talk to him first before I talked to Kevin Wesley, and I did. So I ended up coming talking to you first. But yeah, man, I always wanted to have
What you talking to Kevin about?
Oh wow, man, I've been following Kevin Wesley since 2021.
I gotta call that joke anyway.
Yep. So now I need to try to get around to him. I said now I need to try to get around to him because he did want to have a live with me too. So I want to have a live with him too. Yeah. But I don't want to keep you too long. I see you got 2 hours in. So yeah.
When you have that conversation, two things.
What's that?
When you have that conversation with Kevin, just let me know that you had a conversation with me, and I said I ain't heard from your ass since you moved. I don't want to have to come down there and whoop your ass.
I know. I was like, hey man, hey, you forgot me. You forgot to take this.
I had to beat him down for that one.
Okay, I'll make sure I tell him that.
So you coming to San Antonio for our meetup?
Huh?
I'm putting you on the spot. You coming to San Antonio for our meetup?
I want to.
Reserve your room.
Okay. Where do I go to apply?
There's a link in the bio of this video it says Free Thinkers, and below that Free Thinkers in the description is the link for you to be able to reserve your room October 31st through November 2nd. So you to get your ducats in order. Okay. So as soon as I get off, I'm gonna go check that out. Free yourself. You gotta free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is not negotiable. Good journey, good vibration. Peace. That was good. See, pleasant, great conversations. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that tremendously. I know y'all been typing up a storm over there. Let's see. Let me see what some of the things y'all been saying before. Because y'all know we done hit that 2 hour mark. Y'all got me for almost 2.5 hours yesterday. Yes, divine autistic. It was very refreshing to have a good conversation. A good conversation. I am mad that I let Brandon go before I showed him that the Bible was written anonymously. The New Testament was written anonymously. I cannot say that damn word. Anonymously. Yeah, the Tao has some great. If you haven't read the Tao is just something good to just read. It's just a good book to read for good philosophy. Just a good philosophy of how to live your life. This is, I've showed you guys this before. I don't have many books because my sister, between my sister and my brother, one of them lost my whole library. But this is a very good book if you can find it. Very good book if you can find it. Oh shit, I bet you that love your enemy or turn the other cheek or some shit like that is in this book. I wish I would have thought about that when he was on here. I bet you it's in here somewhere. I have a thought process of where it might be. I haven't went through this book in a long time. Let's love your neighbor. Let's see. So my man said that no other religion says to love your enemy as you love yourself. You know, love your enemy. So, I'm reading from this book. So as you see, it has Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, and Taoism, and the Lao Tzu. So according to the gospel in Matthew and all that nonsense, where it says, you have heard it said, you should love your neighbor. Let me put this microphone back in here. Hold on. Make sure that I'm getting some good sound on this one, if I can see. All right. So it says, you have heard it said, and this is out of Mark and has parallels in Matthew and Luke. You have heard it said, you should love your neighbors and hate your enemies. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you might be children of your Father who is in heaven. Now, according to the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the true yogi, with his heart centered in me, recognizes the self in all beings and act accordingly. So that is recognizing the self in all beings, acting accordingly, is that you see yourself in all beings. So that means you will still love your enemies, even the ones who are against you. The Buddha, though, said in the Anguttara Nikaya, I'm saying that so wrong. The one who has excelled does only good for others and treats everyone the same. He has compassion for the whole world. So in order for you to have compassion for the whole world and treat everyone the same, you have to love your enemies as well, because you only do good for others. In the Tao Te Ching, the wise man has no need of anything, so he is able to give his full attention to others. He feels compassion equally for those who are concerned about others and those who are not. So the Tao Te Ching, and all three of these other ones are written before the Gospels are written. It's saying that he feels compassion equally for those who are concerned about others and those who are not. So there is love for those who love others, and though there is love for those who do not love others. So to say that Jesus was the only one to say to love your enemies is just not true. That's just not a real thing. You know, Dao Ching also said the world is transformed by those who love all people, just as you love yourself. So I can't love all people unless I'm loving my enemies as well. Buddha said, when you see yourself in others, it is impossible to hurt anyone. So I gotta love my enemies. So I doubt if Brandon is still on here, but there you go, Brandon. Save you some time. Save you some time. I'm sure there will be like, oh, but that doesn't say it expressly the same way. If you cannot see that, that shows a lack of reading comprehension. Right? Not trying to be disrespectful, not meaning that in a disrespectful way, just meaning that you are choosing. That would be that cognitive dissonance. You are choosing not to see it. Is that even? Well, you say when Brandon was, it's one thing for Brandon to say, I don't believe that. And it's another thing to say, not true. One dictates one dictates who has to provide proof. Brandon said it wasn't true, but couldn't provide proof. Right, confirmation bias. And he couldn't demonstrate that at all. You know, I showed him exactly where it said, I was letting him know, okay, he didn't want to believe that it was, he said it wasn't true when I said that other books teach that you have to, that you love your enemy, other religions before Christianity. Also that the Bible was written, the Bible in itself, totality, is written anonymously, but definitely the New Testament was written anonymously. Told him the historical figures to go look at, and all he had to say was, it's not true. That's the same way where I was getting people about this guy loving that human sacrifice of that virgin girl, is that they were just saying, it's not true. And then making up stuff like Rupert was just making shit up. Oh, Manassas in 2 Kings 21. It's talking about a person, not a group of people. That is the, it's so amazing how people, when you have your confirmation bias, let me rephrase it. When you are functioning on a lower vibrational scale mentally, you cannot see truth when it is presented. You can't see facts when it's presented, because you have to, that low vibration causes your brain, you to think that you have to have some way of figuring this out to make whatever you already stand on to be the truth. When the fact is, a person functioning at a higher vibrational level does not have a predetermined landing point. Wherever the information leads me is where the information leads me. I'm not going to dictate it, but that's what we saw today. Brandon is going to dictate that this God Yahweh wrote on everyone's heart these objective moralities, but yet cannot prove how this God did it or this God did it, in the face of the fact that before this God is even an oral tradition, the ideas of not murdering were already a part of other people's oral traditions, who would then be able to claim the same thing. And that's the part that their brains can't get past. It's like an explosion happening in their brain, that how can, if my God was never even an oral tradition before the 18th century with the Shashu people, So we're looking at 1700 BCE. He wasn't even an oral tradition at that time frame. If you did apply that it was your God who told the Akkadians that, then you're saying that your God is Enlil or your God is Anu, right? But if you go even further back to the shamanisms that was occurring in the same area, and I'm just talking about the area that they were in, then you would have to say the shamanism that was going on with the people of Taran Tepe and Göbekli Tepe, that those people, you're invalidating them. And you're saying that your God was the animal spirits and the sky spirits and the earth spirits. You know, and it took thousands and thousands of years for your God to migrate into the understanding of Yahweh, which shows how powerless this God is, that he couldn't show up to the people of Taran Tepe and Göbekli Tepe as Yahweh right then. Why couldn't he show up then as Yahweh? Why does he have to go through shamanism from shamanism, then he got to, go into the pantheons of gods and be pantheistic. Then he has to go through the mystic versions of God, and then into the axial, and then into the mystical, and finally into the esoterics, and until you get all the way up into modern day. That this God has to go through these transformations in order to be recognized as God. That's the sad part about believing in this religion, is that you can't, your mind doesn't open, your mind is too not demented, it's too diminished in its thinking to allow for that. C2 Oceans, why God allows so many different religions to exist in the world. All religions are true, or God is deceiving people by letting false religions to exist in the world. And see, that's the thing. That if there was a God, if there was this God of any man's creation, you would have to ask that question. Why would he allow for all these other variations of religions to exist? And even if you were a universalist, all the religions, well, most of the religions, I can't say all, but definitely the Abrahamic religions, all state that only their version is the true version of this God. But most religions believe that their version is the true version of this God. There are a few other religions that are more universal, but there's a conflict with that. You can't claim that the Christianity is part of the universal religions of God, and yet Christianity claims to be such an isolated religion, a xenophobic religion. It doesn't work. It flies in conflict with your universality, So that doesn't work. I don't know if universality is the right word. Your universalism I think that's right. Your universalism. So it would fly in conflict with that universal thought. So therefore, even the universalism doesn't work of any religion. But if this God is that God, then he is the creator of confusion and destruction, which we do see happens, but that's all because of man in this reality. The true reality is that every God, every religion that is known was created by people. They were all created by people. No one else. No deity created the religion. No deity created the fellowship, wrote anything down, put anything down. Matter of fact, the Bible only, from my memory, I can't think of any other space. The Bible only claims that God wrote down one thing, and that was the 10 Commandments, the first original 10 Commandments, which Moses threw them down to the ground. And then when Moses went back up, and this guy supposedly had Moses write them, came back down with 10 different commandments. That makes no sense. This is why, shameless plug, The first link that you will see in the description of this video on Facebook and YouTube is a link to the webinar that's going to be conducted on July 27th on the greatest lie, Exodus, the greatest lie ever told. And we're going to take 3 hours to break this story down into all its nuts and bolts. So I look forward to you guys signing up for that. Click on it, sign up for it, and we're going to have a great time on July 27th. And that's right before I take this road trip. So if you are in Amarillo, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Billings, Montana, Spokane, Washington, let me know. That's where I'll be taking a road trip at the end of this month. And it will be great to see some of you guys. And then, of course, it'll be great to see you guys here in San Antonio, October 31st through November 2nd. So with that, I appreciate everybody who is on the channel. Thank you for being here. We are going to close out now. Thank you for all the members on the channel. Thank you for all the gifts on TikTok, the subscription holders on Facebook, members on YouTube, and everybody who super chatted or donated to the channel through Cash App. I appreciate it. So y'all have a great day. I will see y'all tomorrow. We grow live every month. We grow live. I'm gonna start saying we grow live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for about 2 hours. So always remember, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.